Good evening. Welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. It is June 10th, 2024. This is episode 194. I am pushing 200 episodes of my daily podcast as a stand-up comedian. And I know that I am getting this episode out late, but it's before midnight. And I have only not gotten an episode out before midnight once out of almost 200 episodes. So I think that's doing pretty good. And I'm getting this one out. It has just been a crazy... Oh, shoot. I just totally kicked my tripod. Those of you listening didn't notice that. Those of you watching, you're going to see the video jump over. So, yeah, I ended up... Well, let's catch up. So, yesterday, this would be Sunday, I was in Long Beach, California, performing and producing a comedy show for the You Matter Not Alone charity organization, which helps provide counseling for teens and also for our veterans. It's a mental health organization, and I have been supporting them for about 4 or 5 years now by producing comedy shows to raise money for their cause. So we have been planning this event for about 3 months now, and the event was held on the USS Iowa Battleship, which is a retired naval battleship turned museum that is permanently harbored at in Long Beach. And so that was very cool. And we just had a show and event on the deck of the battleship. They set up, like a canopy and had a stage and chairs and all of that. And there were a bunch of vendors who came out, all in some capacity related to, mental health and supporting veterans. So it was overall a very impressive event. For the most part, everything turned out pretty well. If anybody's ever been involved in organizing an event, you know that there's just 1,000 details and 1,000 things that can go wrong, and trying to get everybody on the same page and make sure everybody has all the information they need to show up, and when to show up, and where to show up, and what's supposed to happen and all of that. So, but overall, the event went well. The comedy show portion, not going to lie, was a little rough for me. So, first of all, it's outside and it's daytime, which is just never really a comedy atmosphere. And it wasn't an enclosed space. They just had one of those really high sort of tents that was just open. It did shade out the sun pretty well, but it was 6 p.m. in June, in Long Beach, California. So it was pretty warm. The sun was out, and everybody there, not everybody, but the event actually started around 4 p.m. because, again, there were all these vendor booths. And so there were a lot of people who were sort of mingling and meandering and talking about their organizations. And that happened for over 2 hours before we were slated to start the comedy show. So it's already a long day. It's outside. We finally were ready to start the comedy show. And then I had my buddy Andrew Norelli open the show. And they did sort of calm down and get focused for him. But after his set, it was my turn, and I went on stage. And as soon as he finished his set, about 7 or 8 people got up, and it just kind of got a little chaotic. Nobody was like focusing on, oh, this is a whole comedy show. It was like, cool, we have a break now because that comedian just ended and I have to go to the bathroom, or I'm thirsty, or I want to get some food, or I got to check a text message. And we kind of were getting a chilly breeze. And so the organizer goes up to me right before I'm about to go on stage and he says, "Hey, just so you know, I'm going to go get blankets for people because I know it's kind of cold." So she runs off, and then I'm on stage. I'm trying to start to do my set, and I couldn't really get anybody's focus. It was just this moment of, I don't know. It was kind of like a commercial break to them, is what it felt like. Like they had watched a comedian, and then just in that brief moment of him ending and me walking on stage and taking over the mic from him was everybody's cue to go like, "Oh, cool, commercial break. This is a time for me to do whatever I need to do." So that was not great. I struggled to start doing my act. I was trying to do jokes, but I didn't really have a lot of people's attention. And I saw people having side conversations and talking and checking their phones. And, so I didn't really have the focus. And then I started to try going into some material. And then right then the woman came back with all the blankets. And so now there's all these blankets being passed out and people are talking. And I'm just going like, this is rough. And then I tried to start doing some material, and my first jokes did not land. And it's all this kind of new material that I've been working on, which I thought I had dialed in. I thought it was bulletproof. Turns out there is some bullets that can still penetrate those that material. So that was discouraging. I tried to just sort of do my routine. I got a couple laughs out of them, and then 3 minutes in, I just decided that I'm going to do my thing and start talking to the audience and then improvise the song. So I jumped to that a lot faster than I wanted to, but I was really struggling. I was getting actually a little frustrated. And like 1 minute in. So again, I say 1 minute into my material, but I'm now like 2 or 3 minutes of just trying to get people's focus again and get them settled down and get them looking at the stage. And, and then right about that time, this tour boat. So we're, in Long Beach, this tour boat, starts driving by, and you can hear the PA of the guy giving the tour, and on your left or whatever. And again, we're open. We're just on a platform of a battleship. And so then this starts talking and it's distracting. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I was not having a good time. I was not having a fun show. And, so yeah, that was kind of a bummer for me. But I plowed through. I talked to this couple in the front row who were very cool, very open to talking. I improvised a song about them. It went okay. And then I brought out our closer and brought her up, and by then they seemed to have kind of calmed down. I didn't do that much time. I was probably only on stage for about 12 or 15 minutes. And then she closed out the show and did a good job. So, I mean, overall, the event went very well. I was unhappy with how my particular portion of the comedy show went, because that's actually the main reason I do all of this, is to just get me more stage experience and show experience in different contexts. And so, yeah, I was a little bummed. It went the way it did. But what are you going to do? So after the show, I had a choice to make, which is, do I want to try to stay the night down in San Diego with my comedian friend again, or do I just want to get back home, or maybe stop off in Blythe? And I did decide just to leave, because I had a big day today scheduled, a lot of work stuff, work meetings, appointments, and then I also had an event tonight that would have been really hard for me if I would have been in LA still, or Long Beach or San Diego, to get home, get myself situated, and then be on time for the event. So I pretty much drove straight. Not pretty much, I did. I left Long Beach and drove straight home to Phoenix. I ended up having a phone call with a good friend of mine, and we got just into this really cool, deep conversation that lasted probably about 3 hours. And so that pretty much got me through California. I think we hung up just as I was leaving Blythe, because it was getting about to be around maybe midnight around that time. And he's a family man, and I'm sure he was exhausted. And although our conversation was very deep and very cool, it was time for him to get to bed. And I still had about 2 hours before I got home to Phoenix. And by then, it's like I'd already drove through Blythe, which would have been my stopping point. But I just went, yeah, there's no way that I'm going to be able to stop now, because I don't want to turn around. And there isn't really hotels between once you get out of Blythe. Maybe Quartzsite has a hotel. I don't know. But pretty much by the time you're finding lodgings again, you're pretty much in the Phoenix Valley anyway. So I plowed through. I got home at about 2 a.m. And then I crashed, and then woke up early this morning, had work meetings, like I said, and a bunch of stuff to take care of. So, overall, it was a good trip to San Diego. I got to do that gig on Friday, which I had a lot of fun at. Again, the Sunday gig wasn't a great gig for me, unfortunately. I hate to be negative. I hate to be, whiny or whatever, but it's just the reality of what happened. And I tried to be transparent on this podcast as I share my journey, just to, show both sides, that it is not always rainbows and butterflies. It's compromise that moves us along. Yeah, that's a little Maroon 5 reference right there. I don't think I've sang that song in years. So, anyway, fun time in San Diego, fun time in Long Beach. Got back in town, and we'll see. This week got some cool things coming up. We've got the Midlife Crisis comedy podcast with my buddy Josh Novi coming up on JP's, which we've already moved a lot of tickets, which is really exciting. It's going to be a packed house Thursday night. However, we also have the Midlife Crisis comedy show coming up at the Tempe Improv, and that is not selling well at all. And there's a chance we might have to cancel, which would be a huge bummer. I met with our advertiser today to just look at the numbers, look at all the advertising, see where we can make tweaks. We made some adjustments to the copy, to the landing page, to the images, and actually sold our first 2 tickets from our advertising. The club has sold a couple, and has also comped about 20 tickets. We're about 50 shy for the show to go through. And we just sold our first 2 tickets today. So we've got like 6 days to move a ton of tickets. So I'd like to be ambitious. I like to be optimistic. But there's a chance that could be a total bust, and we may have to cancel the Tempe Improv show, which would be unfortunate, but not the end of the world. We'll regroup and just know that, the Tempe is not our demographic, which was my intuition to begin with. I wanted to do it at the Desert Ridge Improv up north in Desert Ridge, and for whatever reason, the booker books both venues and said, no, we should try this at Tempe. And I was not in a position to protest and insist. And so I figured, well, let's try it at Tempe and see what happens. Hopefully a miracle happens over the next couple of days and we start moving tickets for that show as well. We've got multiple advertising campaigns going. We're pushing advertising towards the show at JP's on Thursday, and we're pushing advertising towards the show at Tempe Improv, and because they are different geographic regions that we're targeting. I'll tell you, it's a whole other level when you start getting into this side of things. As a comedian, so many of us just want to be able to tell jokes and let all the other people handle all of that stuff. But I'll tell you, in this day and age, with how competitive it is, and with how many comics there are, and how many shows, I'm just finding more and more you've got to be able to at least understand the business side of this and be willing to, at least for where I'm at, treat it like a business and trying to figure out marketing and advertising and ticket sales and ad copy and landing pages and Facebook ads and digital ads, and try to sell tickets, unless you're so incredibly funny or talented or gifted that somebody is willing to do all of that work on your behalf and, manage you, or because you've just built a brand that is so marketable already, you have a huge social media following or something to where people want to see you perform, and so they buy tickets and you're a draw. That is fantastic. That is not the case for a lot of us. And so, it's just the reality of what we do, and that is a new arena that I'm trying to step into, which is how can I build my own brand? And in this case, it's really a partnered brand between me and Josh Novi and this show that we've sort of created, and start to build that brand and market that brand and figure out what demographics work for us, what cities can we perform in and sell tickets, what sort of advertising works, what doesn't work, and just starting to grow and build that brand in that regard. So interesting times. So in the meantime, very much looking forward to the show on Thursday, and hopefully there will be a show at Tempe Improv and it doesn't get canceled, and that is what we are looking forward to. So that is the update for today, June 10th, episode 194 of the Paul Green Comedy Podcast. I hope you're all out there living your dreams and finding joy and fulfillment in the journey. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you tomorrow.